Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, this time talking about yet another of the novel adaptations releases. As I discussed last time, we've got some brilliant work taking the best of the Virgin novelisation stories and presenting them here. Yes, they're never going to do a version of Iceberg for the plain example of it was the first Virgin book I ever bought, but more importantly, the Doctor turns up in the last 2 minutes. It's terribly confusing and I have no idea what was going on, and I still can't remember. I just remember the Doctor hardly being in it, and yet I still continued to buy every single one. So what have we got with All-Consuming Fire? This is for fans of Sherlock Holmes. Now, Big Finish Sherlock Holmes is my go-to Holmes. My go-to Holmes of current production. Obviously, we're talking Jeremy Brett, if you need me to have some sort of favourite one. Yes, I know everyone out there has got their own favourites, and you can't possibly get away from your Peter Cushings, but that's not important. What is important is that Big Finish have got their own Sherlock Holmes range. And their own Sherlock Holmes range has got, well, a level of verisimilitude, a level of realism that's presented to you as Holmes. And yes, they did have one story that had Dracula in it, but on the whole, their stories are very Victorian, procedural based. They have a very firm grounding in reality, and that's the whole point of Sherlock. And, of course, it's played by Nick Briggs. So when the opportunity for Big Finish to produce this particular story that has Sherlock Holmes in it comes up, then it's a natural default setting to get Nick Briggs to play him. It's probably easy if I just read the synopsis first before I start talking about how brilliant this story is. The Library of St. John's the Beheaded contains the most dangerous books in all of creation. So when some of them are stolen, who else should the Vatican call but Sherlock Holmes? Immediately, one of the possible suspects seems more suspicious than the others. He has no traceable background, refuses to give any straight answers, and hides behind a pseudonym. However, Holmes and his loyal friend Watson soon realise this suspect is also their greatest hope. War is brewing, and an old god is rising. To save humanity, they need the Doctor as much as he needs them. Yes, All-Consuming Fire is one of those books that's so good that it's actually been republished by a completely different publisher and had the Doctor completely removed. But here with Big Finish, we've got that same slight alternative drifty universe that's a bit like the main range, but isn't quite the same because Ace is a bit different and Benny's in this, and oh, good lord, Lisa Bowerman, you surpass yourself every time you're on audio. Every performance just gets better. Benny is hilarious, she's well thought out, she's well performed, and she is just so natural to listen to. Benny is a brilliant companion to be with the Seventh Doctor. I would love a whole season of all three of them just as part of a nice little trilogy, the sort of thing that you bung out from time to time. And I know everyone's very busy, but these are great. As a pair of stories, they're just lovely and they fit together beautifully. But All-Consuming Fire is, of course, a Holmes story, and that's what threw me on my first listening. I was sort of sitting there going, why is the Doctor not in this bit yet? And that's how these original books worked. The Doctor didn't really turn up for ages, and then he solved things, or he was in the background hinting, because they were big tomes, they were massive page-turners, and that's what you needed. Yes, it's a romp, yes, it's got similarities to the second Indiana Jones film at one point, but you don't care. There are people appearing here you've never come across in other bits of Holmesian literature, but you know for a fact that they're real and exist. This has been written by two people. It's written by Andy Lane, who wrote the original book, but also by Guy Adams, who's a Sherlock Holmes expert. You can't tell that this has been written by two people, and you know what? It just doesn't matter, because this has also got my all-time favouriteness, which isn't a real word if you want to look that up, about the Seventh Doctor's time. The Seventh Doctor was taking on the gods, like Fenric, but more importantly, like Cthulhu, like those slightly still in copyright characters created by Lovecraft based on exceptionally old gods. Aliens pretending to be gods was the Seventh Doctor's big thing, and that's what we've got going on here. So here you've got Sherlock Holmes, an H.P. Lovecraft-style story, fantastic romps, the Vatican getting involved, the Doctor, Benny, you've got trips to India. Oh, it's simply glorious. Yes, it's a great story, but more importantly, it's a fabulous, fabulous version of the story. I, for one, would heartily recommend this. If you're thinking of jumping onto the range, or maybe getting something, get this. You know you want to, and you will not be disappointed. It was one of the best books from the Virgin range. There's a reason everyone wanted it adapted. And of course, most importantly, Sherlock Holmes and Watson are just brilliant. Yes, the TARDIS might not be big enough for both egos, and yes, Sherlock might be out of his depth for about 5 minutes, but you can seriously let him off. And with that, I'll fade away and play you the trailer, and come back to you very soon, probably talking about Doctor Who. So until then, be seeing you.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who, All-Consuming Fire.
How do I begin to tell you about the adventure of the all-consuming fire?
How can it be so hot in here?
A case like no other began like no other.
This is the Orient Express!
Observe the crest.
Crest? Oh!
Indeed. Our services are about to be retained by none other than the Pope.
The mystery of the missing library books? It seems absurd.
They are no ordinary books, Watson, and the Library of St. John the Beheaded is no ordinary library.
The intricate mystery stretched beyond those icy peaks. In the weeks to come, it would lead to Bombay.
Aha! Dr. Livingston, I presume.
Doctor, I presume.
What do you think of India, then?
Earth in the 19th century is the most alien place I've ever seen.
I've always had a soft spot for it. It showcases humanity at its best and at its worst.
But even distant Bombay was no more than a stone's throw by comparison to our ultimate destination.
It's all starting to fall into place, isn't it?
The desolate, nightmarish world of R'lyeh.
Welcome to R'lyeh. Sorry it's a bit
of a dump.
Naturally, some details are altered, but never to make them more strange. Quite the reverse.
Roast them to ashes. Leave nothing but dust.
Roast us to ashes?
Move!
Watson, the game is afoot.
Big Finish. We love stories.
You've been listening to the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast. Available on RSS, iTunes, Audioboom, Tumblr, and wherever podcasts are found. Why not become a supporter of the show by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Doctor Who and its associated properties are copyright of the BBC and no infringement is intended. To contact the show, email tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.